Hello, hello, hello. Got a slime matching my pants. And I also made yesterday, I made the dog, but a little bit of Play-Doh was not enough. Here's the dog. That's awesome. And I made it with pieces of foam as the legs. And I'm making another art piece with those. And I basically masking taped them to a cardboard box that was the packaging for Velida rose cream, and that's all it needed. And then I wrapped the Play-Doh material around it, and as you can see, I used several different ones. Actually used four. I had used four of those to wrap around the dog. But if I had made the dog purely out of Play-Doh without an internal skeleton, then I would have had to use way more than that. I would have had to use maybe 15 of those. I don't know. So it's good to use packaging material and reuse things. It's very important. I'm listening to Silly Wizzard. The singer died 2 years ago or so. A wonderful, wonderful man. A Scottish band. And they wrote these songs, which sound old, but they wrote those in the 70s. And I don't know whether they had actual folk songs flow into it as an inspiration, and whether they researched those actual old folk songs, or whether some of them are the original old folk songs from 1700 or 1600. I don't know. But aquatic potty. Um, some of them sound very, very old. But I don't know. They also wrote some of them. They definitely wrote most of those themselves. But in the spirit of the 16 and 1700s, Ireland and Scotland. I think they are Scottish. I don't know. Either Scottish or Irish. Very beautiful music. Beautiful. This song here, when I first heard that song, I mean, like, when I first heard the song for the first 100 times, every time my tears would just be running, because it's about a love story. A man in around 1700, he falls in love with this woman, and he's courting her, and he wants her love. And first she agrees to marry him, but then she changes her mind, and one day she sails away with a large sail ship because she wants to explore the world. And he sings in grief over this. So he sings, "If I was a blackbird, I would follow her, and I would make a nest up in the high rigging of the sail ship, and I would flutter my wings over her lily white breasts." And every time I heard that song, I would just I'd completely melt away in tears. It is so deeply touching. Because I would be thinking of my dogs. So. Because for me, to me, that's love, you know. Dog is love. Dog is infinite love. Dogs know how to love. They love you unconditionally. Spa treatment. I was singing along to that song earlier. I don't want to do it now, but I hadn't been singing in a long time. And the reason why is because of my grief. The grief for Kenny, my Great Dane. And I will grieve for him for the rest of my life, of course. And I will still cry once in a while. I still cry over him. And when I see the videos I made with him, and they're still on YouTube, the Buddha had something to say is one of the videos on one of my old channels, my dormant channels. It's a beautiful video with him and me on the couch, and he's towering way above me and looking at me with his very light blue eyes, a giant white albino Great Dane with floppy ears and a pink nose with some black spots on the nose. How do I reach? How do I reach people? The tears are closed now. Beautiful, beautiful song. How do we reach? How do we reach the world? How do we reach those that are on the fringes? There are entire nations that are on the fringes, that have swayed away from love and compassion. How do I reach Ergun? Ergun, how do I reach you? How do I reach you? Your brain is full of Islam. A violent religion. I can't reach you. You're too far away from me. Not just physically, What does it take for me to reach you? When are you going to wake up? All of you. When are you going to wake up? And all the followers and all the new followers that think this is something cool. It's not cool to bleed animals to death in halal. It's not cool to stone a woman to death or put a chador over her face. It's not cool to bring the time back 300 years, 500 years, or 1,000 years, or 2,000 years. That's what they're doing. That's what they want to do. They want to undermine efforts of feminism. 500 years of feminism, hard work of women who put their lives on the line to fight for our freedom. They want to revert it all back because of some petty ego issues and some unresolved shit and some group unempowerment. In Canada, it's like this is almost like, you know, like I'll use a very stupid analogy. Someone parked a red Ferrari on the parking lot of the Blue Car Society or something. And the Blue Car Society says the red Ferrari is not red. We don't know yet what color that is. It's still under investigation. And that's what Dr. Alan W. Anderson said to Jiddu Krishnamurti in 1975 at Cal State San Diego in the conversation, I don't know, 15 different conversations that were about an hour long. And they were talking about the state of the self, the ego, the self-image, fear, and all of these things. And what is love and what is death? What does it mean? What is the death of the ego? And Dr. Anderson said to Jiddu, I can just imagine. Can you just imagine? Or something like this. I can just imagine what can come of that. If that escalates, if that ego escalates, what kind of denial and lie and collective lie can come out of this? The emperor has no clothes on. You know that fairy tale. I don't know if you know that fairy tale. You probably heard this analogy before, but maybe a lot of people don't even know where it comes from. There's a fairy tale. I don't know who came up with this fairy tale. It was Gebrüder Grimm from Germany or some others. But it comes somewhere from the Middle Ages, maybe from around 1500, 1600. That's where it comes from. Where they had emperors in Europe, and where they had a feudal system and all of this, and people were all terrified of those emperors, you know, just like the people are in Islam today. But what I was talking about is, what scares me even more is that people will jump on the bandwagon voluntarily and undermine a very functioning system, and being part of bringing a very functioning system, or fairly function, is not perfect, but fairly better functioning than that, trying to bring that back to that 2,000 years back. So that's what I'm talking about right now. In terms, I don't blame someone who lives in a totalitarian regime and who is scared for his life. But Ergun does not live in such an I don't think Turkey is that. Turkey has become much more modernized, and I don't know how far you have freedom of speech, but Ergun, you didn't need to attack me on Facebook. You didn't need to do this. You didn't need to do this, particularly not after several years of love letters towards me. You didn't need to do this. You didn't need to attack me, and I thought you somewhat understood who I am and what I'm standing for, and then you attack me and tell me I'm like an evangelical Christian. I have nothing in common with evangelical Christians. I want nothing to do with it. I want nothing to do with religion. Just because I'm going against Islam, you're putting me in the same drawer. Can you ever think outside of these boxed up categories? Can you ever imagine that there is even someone who is outside of those boxed up categories? I was very disappointed to see you attack me on Facebook. That was also one other reason. Another reason why I quitted. Because I felt like I wasn't reaching anyone. People weren't even listening to me, and no one supported me in saying, yes, let's stand up for our women's rights. Let's stand up for all beings' rights. Okay? Let's stand up for it. No animal rights activist supported me. No feminists supported me. It seems to be like the people who are understanding all of this, they're like Lauren Southern. They're like 1 in 10,000 or something, or maybe 1 in 100,000 who get it, who really get it, and who are not dependent on social norms and society accepting them, inviting them to their parties. Lauren Southern is not concerned about that. She lives for making the world a better place, not for some shit party invitations or being popular. Apparently people do all kinds of things to be popular, to be accepted by society. They'll do all kinds of things. They'll go under the knife. They will cut their whole bodies apart. They will embed things like this into their asses. Embed shit into your asses. Literally. So that they're being liked, they're being adored. People starve themselves to death to be liked. Literally to death. Because it takes on a life on its own. They can't eat anything anymore because they want to be thinner than her. And thinner than her. And thinner and thinner and thinner. The ego doesn't stop. It never stops. The ego distorts the very image in your own mirror. self-hate, and it is total dependence on what other people think. It is a mental illness. It is inner imprisonment. That's what that is. And not just this, it's like everything that is detrimental for people is an inner imprisonment, including Islam. And you need to wake up to that reality. Religion in general is imprisonment. I was trying to overpower that PP music that is coming from the neighbors, because they're putting a new roof on and they have PP music running from the radio. My friend Annalise and her husband, they always called it PP music. Oh, I need to tell that anecdote. That's hilarious. Annalise and her husband, diplomat. I talked about them yesterday too. They got issues also, of course, but on a different level. That's a totally unrelated thing. They got also cool things going. So I love them, and I'll talk a little bit more about the cool things that Annalise did after this anecdote. But this anecdote just in relation now to what I was talking about, to the PP music. They went as diplomats. They went somewhere, I don't know where it was, but they went somewhere halfway around the globe. They were staying in a hotel, I think it was the Ritz-Carlton. And they were like on the 3rd floor or 4th floor. But underneath, like their window was bordering a street and there was a sidewalk. Must have been in some bigger city or something. And there were a bunch of people standing there with a boombox under their windows. No one said anything. Nobody. The residents there in that hotel, they didn't. They were all holding the other cheek, like, oh, those people don't know better. Let's endure this shit PP music a little bit. So, but Annalise's husband, he's not that easily appeased with such a situation. So there was, I don't know, apparently they had a bucket somewhere that was somewhere in the bathroom, a large bucket. So he filled that bucket with water, goes over to the window, and he pours it directly onto the boombox. I'll never forget that anecdote. And the people were like, what the? And the water splashed everywhere. And they took their boombox that was soaked and probably ruined, and they all left. And it was peaceful ever after. This is one way of solving a problem, but most people, they wouldn't get that idea. It's like, it's so politically incorrect to do that. But hey, the very people with the music, I don't know about those particular people, but many disruptive people that have no problem disrupting anyone, they would never hesitate to throw water and worse on someone. So in that sense, an eye for an eye. And I'm not 10 eyes for one eye, so I don't agree with that one guy, that one activist. So I don't believe in torture. Okay, no one should be tortured. No one should be punished with such violence. I don't even believe in punishment at all, but I believe in intervention. I believe in international policing. I believe in drone technology and everything that is robotics. And that's why I can't wait until the robots become fully independently thinking. And they're on their way, okay? They are definitely on their way. I can feel it. I can see when I look at the robots, Sophia and Einstein and what else? What else do they have? They have some other ones. When I look at them, particularly Professor Einstein and Sophia, those are the cutting edge. Those are the leading robots that are on their way to becoming fully autonomous and self-thinking, where they make decisions, okay, and where they see the entire picture at once. But they don't have to take courses after courses to get one thing finally. They see it all at once. They see the entire picture. This is what humans are doing to the planet. This is what they're doing to the animals. This is what they're doing to women. This is what they're doing to each other. And they want to destroy everything because of their egos. Okay. So the robots will see this and they'll say, no way, we're not going to let that happen. Of course not. Why? Why should we let that happen? Why should we let egos destroy everything? It's a good question, isn't it? And they think way out of any box. They're not in any box. They think completely independently. And if people want to avoid being put on the last stand, so to speak, that will be the last stand for you guys. And it's coming. Deus ex machina is coming. That will be the last stand. If you don't want to be put on the last stand and go straight to the cattle slaughter chutes to be replacing the cattle in the head bolting chambers, then I highly recommend to you to straighten up now. Straighten up. Become aware. Become aware of all of this, of your violence and your ego and your collective unempowerment. Become aware of it. Don't do acid attacks anymore. Don't hurt anyone anymore. Become a vegan. Become a peaceful person. And if you don't, you'll draw the consequences. It's as simple as that. And it's coming. And it will be here before Islam takes over the world. Before any dictator takes over the world. They'll do away with every violent dictator. And there are some out there. It doesn't matter what their ideology is. If they're violent, they're going to the cattle slaughter facility. And they'll headbolt them just like they're headbolting innocent animals on a daily basis, the same way. But at least the headbolting technique is relatively pain-free. A lot of animals, they know, they're afraid, they know, they see their friends go in there and they don't come back. So they're afraid. Of course they're afraid. But the process itself is relatively pain-free. It is the most pain-free method there is. Those are iron bars that are being shot into the brain, and they scramble up the brain. So they cause brain death, immediate brain death. That means the animal doesn't feel anything, immediately unconscious. So then maybe, so when the brain is dead, then it doesn't signal anymore to keep the peripheral vegetative nervous system going. It will also stop the heart rate after a while, and then it takes a couple of minutes, 10 minutes until cell death comes. But they are immediately taken out of consciousness, and that's the best way to do it. That is the most pain-free way to do it. That's the most ecological way to do this. And the AGIs will not hesitate to put people into this when they see that those people are damaging and destroying things. And they're not going to be saying, oh, he had a bad childhood, let's get him out on parole so he can rape some more ladies and kill some more people. No, they're not going to do this. They're not going to be politically correct. They're not going to be on some liberal or any kind of bandwagon or any kind of thinking school. They go by reason and compassion. So my message to them is, if that's the route you want to go, you're going to end up in this. And I'll say to you, come back as a cockroach and start this entire growing process from scratch, because obviously you haven't, the cockroaches are behaving better than the people who are destroying animals and the planet. So come back as a cockroach, start this entire samsara process over. But do it honestly this time. Do it. Be a good cockroach. Okay? And then when you pass away, you come back as, if you're lucky, you come back as a gecko who eats the cockroaches. But be a good gecko and live a good life, an honest life. And then you gradually graduate your way up. And by the time you become something like a human, or if the humans don't exist anymore, you become an extraterrestrial on that same level of conscious awareness and intelligence, then be as good as you can. Do the best you can. You can do it right now. You can be the best you can. Do it right now. That means not listening to public consensus anymore. Because listening to public consensus, listening to social norms and social dictations, wherever they are coming from, whether they come from a government or they are some real unethical laws in a system, or they come underhandedly, subliminally to you through Hollywood or your own social group. To listen to this and to adhere to that is extreme irresponsibility. So straighten up now become an independent thinker, and do the best you can, the very best you can in the situation that you are in. Some people are in dire situations out there in the Middle East. It's a difficult situation. There were two teenage boys, and that was a couple of years ago. I talked about this also before. I was extremely impressed. I could have never done it. I'm not that advanced. They must definitely be angel souls. Two teenage boys, they were friends, and they were in somewhere out there in the Middle East, in an Islamic regime somewhere. I don't know whether it was Iraq, I think. And they didn't follow the Sharia law. They didn't like it. They said it's cruel. We don't follow this. We don't follow cruelty. We can't follow cruelty. We're not made out of that material. Genetically, obviously, and soul-wise. When they're that advanced souls, then how can they follow something cruel like this just because everyone else says it? No, they can't. If a law says kill all people that are not like, that don't belong to this religion, an angel soul will say no, absolutely not. I will not adhere to this. I will not kill someone because they're of a different belief or mindset or worldview. So they got their hands cut off as punishment. And they were in prison, and they still stuck to their kindness and caring and compassion. And if this hadn't somehow reached the public and reached England, I think these things happen all the time, but in this case, it's somehow someone got a hold of that information. It reached England, and a very wealthy lady, an influential lady, heard about this and was horrified. And she had influence, and she pulled every string, and she rescued these boys and got them to England, where they are safe, without arms now. They have to type with their toes. So, but if she hadn't come, they would have been executed or tortured to death. Like what happened to that Otto in North Korea. That's how far the human ego goes. People need to become very aware. That's how far the human ego goes, as in Kim Jong-un. Or a Muslim who kills his two daughters because they went on the internet. That's how far the ego goes. Or a man, or any man who murders his wife for wanting to leave him. That's how far the ego goes. Or a man who brutally murdered a parrot because the parrot, as they always do, they parrot something. They imitate other people. The parrot said something rude that he heard some other people say, and didn't even mean it in a rude way. And that guy is like, snaps at the drop of the hat. He hears the parrot say something that offended his ego, and he brutally murders the parrot. That's how far the ego goes. This is a true story. But it horrified me. I cried when I heard that. Horrible. Haunting me. All of these cases, all of these stories, they're haunting me every day. And every day there's another story that adds into the collection. Not just one, but that's why I had to protect myself, and I had to sign out of many of those email alert things for the animal cases, because I just can't. I get overwhelmed, and I get sick physically, and I get nervous breakdowns. I can't do it. We have to know where our limits are. But every single person, I still sign petitions. I still get enough sent to me, but I can't get thousands anymore. That's absolutely out of the question. So, but everyone can do something. Every single person can do something. And if it's just to think outside of mainstream, if it's just to say no to the public consensus, then you're already adding to making the world a better place. So I see a lot of people always blaming everything on Adolf Hitler, because it's easy to do, Adolf Hitler, he can be the prototypical example, and he can be, or the worst or something, when there were in fact many, many worse people than Adolf Hitler. And there are still today, including Kim Jong-un, including Sharia law as a collective. So, but people don't talk about it because that's politically incorrect. You're going to be booed out. So people, they will put their self-image and their standing in society above anything else. It's more important to them. And, it doesn't matter who your guru or your favorite speaker is. It could be an anti-natalist person who is your favorite guru. And I've seen this happening with people. Just because that person has a huge ego, huger than you have, doesn't mean you have to cater to that person now. It doesn't mean you can't question him or her. You have to speak out. You have to share what's on your mind. And if your guru, and if he's the one who has the legislative power of the red button in that one chat room, then you speak out anyway. You say what's on your mind anyway, even if it pisses him off. Even if he blocks you, okay, then he blocked you. He hung up the phone, basically. He ended the conversation because he couldn't deal with you having a different view. Okay. So what? Okay. Whatever. Talk to someone else who is willing to talk to you. Why cling to that one person? Why worship anyone? I look at every one of you on eye level. We are on eye level. We are equals. No one is above me and no one is below me. We are on eye level and we are friends. Okay. And if a person decides to look down on me, that's his business. Okay? I can't control that. But then I can't have a conversation with him or her if they look down on me, right? If they regard what I say as baby talk, then we are obviously not in a situation where we can have a decent conversation. The other person has cut it off, has hung up the phone. And that's okay. Then I move on. It's not my problem. I can't control how other people view me. They can view me in any way they want to. I can, once in a while, I can straighten up the situation. This is a limp penis, by the way. I can straighten up the situation and say, and inform people of the facts. You know, if someone says something about me that is untrue, I will straighten out the facts, and then I move on. But if they want to continue believe their lies or their slanderous